Hey guys, this is Nick with Cymatics, and in this video I'm going to show you some processing tricks and sound design techniques that'll help improve your bass lines and make them stand out in the mix. Alright, so in this example I'm going to play for you one of the demos from the Duality mix.
I wish I could write a letter, 'cause I really need somebody. I wish we could be together, 'cause I really need somebody. I need somebody like you.
A couple of remarks I want to make about the bass so far is that I really like the tone of it. It's kind of like a short donk bass, but it's a bit unremarkable in terms of its position in the stereo field as well as its character. And one of the secret weapons that I tend to use quite a bit actually is Diablo, this plugin here, for a couple of reasons. Even though it's kind of designed for drums, it actually has a lot of features that are very usable on bass as well. In particular, this heat parameter here, as well as this sizzle and width knobs. They do a lot to color a bass sound and bring it out, is a bit more prominent in the mix. So the first thing I want to do is apply a little bit of width, and I'm going to show you how you can do it in a way that does not interfere with any mono compatibility issues that you might have with other width related plugins. So first thing you're going to do is turn on this width function and then just turn it up to about 70%. So that spreads things out very nicely. Notice there's this high pass switch here. What this does is it lets us actually remove the low end from the widened signal so that when you collapse it back to mono, it's not going to have any interference and it'll sound good on all speakers. So in this case, we can actually isolate the upper mid range, which is what I want. So about there would be a good sweet spot for this. If we turn this off and then compare it. And now let's just play this in context.
'Cause I really need somebody. I wish we could be together.
You can notice that the bass is really, now all of a sudden it's kind of like a main character in the mix, whereas before it was playing a supporting role. This is obviously to your taste. In this particular example, I really like how it sits over top of the drums when it's spread out a tiny bit. And again, we're keeping those sub-frequencies out of the widened signal. I'm going to keep to this plugin and explore some other functions here. The heat parameter here has a couple of modes. This is going to add some saturation and distortion to your signal. All right, let's try out this blaze mode. This is going to add some even harmonics to the sound. Let's solo the bass again. And as you can see, you can push it quite hard. And I also encourage you to experiment with some different saturation modes because they have different characteristics. I kind of like this demon one. It brings out more high end. Alright, let's bring it in and out. So notice how we went from this to this. If you want to control the output gain, you can always just come down here and bring this down a bit.
'Cause I really need somebody. I wish we could be together, 'cause I really need somebody. I need somebody like you. I'm tired of roaming alone on the floor. I feel like
Alright, that's sounding very nice. Let's experiment with this sizzle parameter here. What this is going to do is bring in some high end, kind of like the distortion, but it's actually going to inject noise into the signal in kind of a clever way. It's going to texturize the bass a bit. That particular noise injection comes from this grit mode, and it's really useful, especially on sounds that are a bit soft, bass sounds, and other sounds as well that are a bit soft and don't have a lot of high end information. When you use it subtly, it's super useful on bass, and anything that has not a lot of high end and is kind of a softer sound, you can definitely use this thing to reintroduce a little bit of texture. So let's try it. You can already hear what it's doing. When you bring it up a lot, that's more useful for drums, but I like to set it to about 10%. And then you can combine that with filter when you open up this panel to kind of control how much high end you want. let's do it before and after just on the sizzle. Right away you can tell that something is missing all of a sudden. Let's play that in the mix. Finally, I like to use this body parameter here, and this is basically just a compressor, and this is super useful on basses like this, kind of shorter donk sounds, to kind of extend them and give them a little bit more weight. So you can hear at higher values it's really squashing the sound and making that bass super long. I like to keep it at about 25%. Now, let's before and after this whole thing. So look how we went from this puny little shrimp bass to this this beast. And you can of course mix this to taste. So you have this patch here that you set up. You can bring it in and out with the mix parameter to set what blend you want. And you can play with the phase as well. Invert the polarity of the process sound to see which sounds better. But I like it at 100%. You can also use a little bit of punch. Might start to get a little bit too aggressive. Always make these decisions in the context of your mix. Before. And after. Alright, now we're going to put everything together, and for this example I'm going to write a new bass line underneath this EDM beat here, and I'm going to be using sounds out of our upcoming pack Slayer, which is slated to come out later this month, and we're going to be going into this folder here, the Isotope 808 and Bass Collection folder. But I also want to show you a way you can make a donk bass out of a Reese, which could be cool. Let's load up a Reese bass. I'm going to spam some notes here, repeat this pattern. You might be wondering, this doesn't quite sound like any kind of a donk bass. It's not like a short, stabby, plucky sound. And the way we can kind of make it into a donk bass is, first of all, we need to use the filter on the sampler. These features exist on any sampler in any DAW. It doesn't matter which DAW you're using. But this filter will actually help us get most of the way there. I'm just going to show you what you have to do. So you have to set the filter to a low value, and then you have to go into your controls for the filter envelope, whichever that may be in your DAW, and then you're going to just boost that filter envelope amount. And now you have a donk bass. Now changing this decay, this shape of the sound, will change the kind of contour. But that's not quite punchy enough. By the way, you can also raise the resonance, and that'll give you a kind of a 80s style sound. But that's not going to be quite punchy enough for my needs here. This might sound okay. But another feature that exists in any sampler is this pitch envelope. And what pitch envelopes are, they are essentially the same thing as your filter or your volume envelope, but they're applied to the pitch of the sample. And when you raise the pitch amount of any pitch envelope and make the decay very short, this will tell the sampler to take your bass up to, let's say, 24 semitones at this top point and then drop it down to your normal pitch. So imagine it'll go kind of like this, like that, down to 0. Now, when you do that very fast, that's actually how you make a kick drum. So if you boost this pitch envelope and then play with this decay value, again, both the filter and the pitch envelope, they depend on this decay value, you can get some cool sounds. Let's solo this. At high values, you're going to get a kind of a silly sound, but once you bring it down, there's a point at which it starts to really bite. And that's how you get kind of a strong percussive bass sound. And that's combined with this filter. Now you can hear it's a very strong, stable donk bass. Now if we disable this pitch envelope, see how flabby that is? And now it hits. Now the nice thing is that this will work with any sample. You can even move around the point in the Reese and kind of find the bass tone that you like. It's super cool with these Reese samples. Let's try a different Reese sound. I kind of like these Reese sounds that evolve over time, because like this one, because they let you actually kind of select a point along the Reese and find a space where it actually sounds good. It's kind of having like a million basses in one sample. Let's bring down this last note. And again, we can play with this decay value. So if you guys are looking for a way to combine all of these techniques that I showed you in this video into one really simple solution, then Cymatics actually has a new bass plugin coming out called Shockwave. And Shockwave is going to have everything I showed you. So it's actually going to come loaded with bass sounds. It's going to have all kinds of bass sounds like 808s, donks, Reeses, you name it, even acoustic basses and brass and stuff like that. It's also going to come with a suite of effects that are tuned for bass. They're kind of similar to the ones that I showed you here. So it's going to have like a texture noise generator. It's going to have a width parameter. It's going to have distortion. It's also going to come with a filter bank, so you can actually select different kinds of filters to control the tone of the sound. You'll be able to control the filter with envelopes like I showed you here. You'll be able to control the pitch envelope as well. And you're also going to have a very fine control over the actual sound itself. You'll be able to do the kind of stuff that I was doing with the Reese bass here, selecting the start point, changing fades, changing the actual contour of the sound itself. And it's all going to be packaged into one really easy to use interface. It's going to be coming out alongside Slayer. Be on the lookout for that. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.